everybody. This is Critical Critique. Not Pause on Point this week. Today we are going to be gaming the system. A new show where we're going to talk about gaming-related nonsense. Today we've got
and also gaming. Yeah, and also gaming YouTube's algorithms, because we're going to be covering a particularly popular video,
given we're a bit late to the party, it's already been proven.
Yeah, we're proving that we're continuing to prove that we're the budget weeb version of EFAP.
So, we in this video specifically, we're gonna try and stay away from the whole SJW bad type of critique, because that's kind of already been done. We want to try and look at this a little bit more.
Yeah, we should really stop beating a dead horse at this point.
Objective. So. Yeah, we want to look a little bit more objective. We'll look a little bit more at the
where they basically go wrong in the arguments.
Yeah, well, I mean, the entire normalization argument to begin with is quite shit, so it's quite...
I mean, there are a lot of places we can go with this, so...
Alright. So, let's jump into it. So, we're watching Stop Normalizing Nazis. Let me just actually...
Socially conscious game design.
Socially conscious game design. Now, how familiar are we all with Extra Credits? Because I'm quite familiar with their work. I used to follow them quite a lot a couple of years ago, and then I stopped because they started to become a bit fucking propaganda-y, and I wasn't quite into that.
I've watched a few of Extra Credits videos before that point. Like, I'm familiar with Extra Credits, and I've seen a few of their vids, but other than that, not much else.
I used to watch some of their extra history things. Some of them were pretty good. They initially started it because it was like a promotional for like Total War Rome or something like that. And they were like, "Yeah, can you just talk about Roman history?" Well, as an advertisement thing. They're like, "Yeah, sure, let's do that." And they did that. It was pretty good. I would say some of their game discussions can be spicy, as we're gonna find out.
I haven't really watched any of them videos.
There was a good video on how the West and Japan do game violence. That was one. There's also one on Japanese RPGs and Western RPGs, in which we might have to cover that one in the future, because their basic argument is that Japanese RPGs are inherently shit.
Oh no! Value judgments about culture. Dangerous territory.
I disagree.
But
I love my JRPGs.
Yeah. All right. Well. We'll look into doing some more extra credit, like some older, because they've done a lot of videos. I was looking into their playlist where they have it's like 300 something episodes, right? So there's a lot to cover. And from what I remember when I used to watch them, they had quite a lot of like it tends to be hit and miss. Sometimes they do actually make okay to decent.
You mean it's like us?
Yeah, it's like us.
Well, when you've made like over 300 videos, not all of them can be great. I mean, there's going to be some stinkers, and there's going to be some that are, great and not great.
Well, we're gonna be looking at a bit of a controversial one today. So, let us get right into it. We're gonna start in 3, 2, 1.
Playing the PvP in your World War II shooter, and all of a sudden, you're a Nazi. You didn't ask.
All of a sudden,
Yay.
You're a Nazi.
Yay! I'm fighting as the opposing team.
Yay! You're Okay, so right off the bat, interesting intro. It's a very, very polar.
Very to the point.
Very to the point. All of a sudden,
I like it. I like
Nazi.
it. Well, we didn't pause that point, but I actually like the fact it's very to the point. Like, he isn't like beating around the bush.
I can agree with that. I think it's good to get straight into, what you're doing. I just think that there's just the delivery, right? It's the idea of, so there you are, you're sitting on your couch, you're playing COD World War II, and then all of a sudden, you're a Nazi.
It's very unironically reefer madness.
Also, like, I've actually played like World War II games that have multiplayer and stuff, and to me it's just like you're on the opposite team. Like, who are the allies supposed to be fighting? Each other?
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Well,
But
they're getting
It's
they're
World
going
War
to
Three.
we'll get into that.
World War Two. I mean, it's World War Two. It's
Yeah,
you got one side fighting another side, and they're fighting each other.
Well,
And
they
some of them
try
have-
to address this point later in the
Yeah,
video.
they do that later, but we'll get to that. But that's
Well, whenever I played as, or I got stuck on a German team in Call of Duty 2's multiplayer, it'd just be like, hey, cool, I can use the Car 98 like a piece of shit.
All right, let's keep going.
For this. You didn't choose this. Yet there it is. And it's treated no differently than playing a British soldier.
Okay, so that's the opening thesis. The opening thesis is you're playing as a Nazi, and it's no different than playing as a British soldier. That's the opening thesis. So, what do we think about that?
What what are they defining as Nazi? Are they defining members of the Nazi party or Nazi soldiers like the
soldiers,
SS, or
a member of the Nazi apparatus.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right.
going to assume that's what they mean because
now, quick question.
Yeah.
Now, I only know a little bit about World War II, but I do not know much about how how Nazi Germany's military was structured.
Okay.
But were all German soldiers counted as Nazis, quote unquote?
Technically,
yes.
Technically, yes, but also technically no, because there was a difference initially between the army and the SS. Because the SS is its own.
Yeah,
the SS is its own. Like the SS was the Nazi Party's army, whereas the normal army, what was it? It was called something else, I believe. What was it called? It wasn't
The Wehrmacht?
Yes, I think it was the Wehrmacht. Yeah. So you had the Wehrmacht, which was the actual army, right? Which was you would say that like it would be considered the Nazi army in the same way that if the US army would be considered Trump's army now, right? Like it's the idea. It's the idea of who is in power is in control of the army, even though technically it's not like that. But then you also had the SS, which was created as the actual Nazi Party's arm, right?
And in those World War II games, you play as both. You can play as an officer, and that is an SS officer. So I don't think you can really make the point you're not playing as a Nazi in some capacity.
Yeah, that's not that's not the point that I'm necessarily trying to make.
And the point that I want to bring up is that a lot of these German soldiers were just people doing what they thought was right for their country.
Yeah,
like we're going to war, bitch. We're going to war.
That's the other point. But the point I'm more trying to
another
point
point
out.
I want to bring up. Another point I want to bring out is that the whole victory is like written by winners. Like both sides of the war did horrible, and I mean horrible things to each other.
I don't think it's right to equate one side who tried to commit the genocide and another who didn't.
I know, but he's saying like, oh, you're playing as a Nazi. Like, is there any different? Like, technically, you're playing as a German soldier who's just been told to do their job. Right. They're in the military.
I mean, you're not even doing that. You're playing as a differently coded thing in multiplayer. I think one of the misnomers that a lot of people have is that we started referring to that area of Germany as Nazi Germany when like it's more like it was Germany underneath the rule of the Nazi Party, as it were.
Yeah, it's my main point was not necessarily that you're not playing as Nazis. My main point is more that it's a little bit more complicated than just
if this was Wolfenstein, then yes, you would be like playing as Nazis because they are Nazis.
Yeah, my main point was that it's a bit more complicated.
No, you shoot Nazis in Wolfenstein.
Yeah, it's a bit more complicated than just now you're playing on the opposite team, and the opposite team is the Nazi team, right? I think that
that was my original point.
Because you can boil it down to that, right? Because if you can boil it down to the most basic element as being that, but I feel like it also misses a little bit of the nuance, and it feels like they're making it like they're boiling it and simplifying it to help their argument.
Yeah. Should we continue the video because I have another point, but it can wait until later.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going.
This is bad on so many levels. No one should ever have a random chance of fighting for the Nazis. And we should never
Okay, that's interesting. So, we've established that their stance is that it's bad that you play as a Nazi.
Well, let's expand it a little bit. This is going to touch upon my point, but let's do it anyway.
All right.
It's bad to play as a bad person.
Right. That's boiling it down to its most basic elements, right?
Well, because why stop at Nazis? And later in the video, they're not stopping at just Nazis, but
yeah.
Basically, a bad person. Which
but you play as bad people in the video, bad or morally gray person in a video game all the time. Like that's also one of the things I think I kind of hate about this whole argument, that you should never, play as somebody who's bad, or you should shove the fact that they're bad within somebody's you need to have a very clear political or moral stance in the video game. Not all writing and not all visual media tends to assume that the audience needs guidance like that. It's very denigrating when you're basically told you absolutely need to agree. Like there's no in between. One of the things that a game, especially done from a first-person's perspective, can kind of do is that it can kind of shed light on why people might do something. Like, for this example, Nazis. You could shed light on why somebody would fight in an army like that, or why somebody might necessarily be complicit with that. Or in this case, it's just multiplayer, so who gives a fuck?
Yeah. That's an interesting point in that it's just multiplayer. Because I feel like the argument, if they were making the argument from single-player perspective, it's weird because it would kind of change things a little bit, right? Because when you're talking about multiplayer, you're talking about something that's usually separated from a story or from the main sort of narrative focus of a video game. Something that's kind of like on the side, right?
Yeah, and I just want to ask this question, and I want to ask this quick question, like, is there actually any video game where you play as a Nazi or a German soldier from World War II?
That was exactly what I was about to say, right? There's actually not a lot of cases in which I believe, which Call of Duty was it, where you played Russians? There was a point where you played Russians in one of the
World at War, or just
one of them. I know it was one of the older ones.
Call of Duty 2. There was a Russian campaign at the beginning. It was actually pretty good. And I know World at War had one.
But
Soviet era Russia is perfectly fine to play in the role of. It's when it's Russia in the modern day that it becomes you absolutely can't play as these people.
Essentially, post and during Cold War era, as where shit starts to get a bit iffy.
Yeah.
But the main point is there's not really a lot said about the German perspective, and it's something that I've said before in other talks with people, is that you don't actually have a lot of video games that kind of cover the idea of what is it actually like to be a Nazi. Right? What does it mean to just be a grunt soldier in the Nazi army getting orders to advance into the whatever front you're on, right? So...
The problem, I think, is with wanting, or not wanting, of trying to portray somebody who is a Nazi and try to follow the person's logic.
Oh, wait, do you know what?
Is that you could run in kind of in the same problem with anti-vaxxers and other doomsday religious cults, in that you kind of, in that case, you are promoting that view. You're explaining it and justifying it, etc., etc. And I
don't know. I think
hard.
I think there's a point to that, but I also think you could use it as a way to also counter it as well.
Yeah, but it's very, very difficult, is what I'm saying. And if it's so difficult, so sensitive, I can very much understand why very few people even try to do it.
Yeah, and just something I was thinking. We're talking about games in which you can play as Nazi Germany. any grand strategy game taking place during World War II, and any board game taking place, like Axis and Allies, a board game that takes place during World War II. And I think kind of the important point, I think, is that it's a bit more acceptable with grand strategies because it's a very abstracted kind of thing. It's very detached from the realities of what was happening at the time.
You're not in the perspective of, say, Wolfgang, the private, the grunt soldier in the trenches, or Helsing. Oh, not Helsing, but insert German name here in the tanks, or the pilot. You're not seeing what they see.
Hans.
Yeah, you're not playing Holocaust or Tycoon.
Yeah.
If you want a German name, just say Hans.
Hans,
yeah, let's say Hans.
Like Hans in the tank, or Gunther in the plane. Like, you're not playing as these
or Hans
German,
in the air.
Hey, Lolly.
Yeah, you're not playing as these German grunt soldiers who have to actually deal with the shit on a daily basis. Like, having their friends being shot at, or having to hold the line. The Allies are coming through with their tanks. Incoming!
They're trying to free the Jews from the concentration camps. We have to stop them.
Oh my god.
Somebody brought up cults, and that's something you also see in games and media. Cults are another one of those things where it's a very easy thing to dehumanize so that you can just shoot at it for an hour or 2 hours, which is weird because
citation Far Cry, whichever one it was, the latest.
Far Cry, anything in 40K, like if you anything in
it's the one with
it's in 5.
Yeah, 5. Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Anything 40K related, for one, anything Call of Cthulhu related. I'm going into tabletop games right now, but with an overwhelming amount of RPG, that's another one of those things that is just an easy thing to be like, okay, you can go shoot this thing now without feeling morally odd about it. And I think at the end of the day, that's kind of what these what they kind of want. They just oddly enough, they kind of want what most people want out of games, and that they want to be able to shoot the designated bad guy without thinking.
Shoot them demons.
Shoot them tyrannies.
Before we continue, I was just going to say, Lolly, we played German Vehicles of War Thunder. That makes us Nazis.
Oh, yeah, no. Dude. BF 109, it's just so good.
Some of the Wolfenstein games, and I feel the transformation already.
Alright.
I want to invade Poland.
Alright, let's keep...
Oh my god.
I feel it calling to me.
Oh god.
Wolfenstein, The New Order, did the thing where they made the Nazis really cool because they were really aesthetic. They had the diesel punk aesthetic going.
Yeah, and then
they fucked up.
Yeah,
I actually love the design. I love the Wolfenstein game, the new ones. They're really fun.
Well, the latest.
And
I've heard some mixed things about the newest
one.
Well,
let's not get
which is getting distracted. We should.
All right, let's
we gotta keep on track. So let's keep going.
Press that there's no meaningful difference between Nazis and Allied soldiers, or that they're functionally interchangeable. And before anyone equivocates and says not all German soldiers in World War II were Nazis, if they were wearing the swastika and are functioning as an arm of the Nazi government, then unless the game goes out of its way to tell you specifically that your particular character is not a Nazi, then they're a Nazi. In that multiplayer shoot...
The issue, I agree in the point that if you're part of the Nazi arm of government, etc., you're a Nazi.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean you share in their beliefs.
Yeah.
Or share the blame.
Just because you're in the army doesn't mean that you are a national socialist, which, by the way, is what Nazi is short for, in case anyone doesn't know.
Yeah, and even then, it's also assuming that you can assign ground level blame to for any of the government decisions on this soldier. Using the same argument, you could say that you need to go out of your way to say that the American soldier you're playing as doesn't approve of Japanese internment camps, or there were German American internment camps.
Yeah.
Or I think there was also Italian American ones as well. So you'd also have to go out of your way to state that. And You see how far
is-
down this rabbit
This is
hole
my
goes.
point of not playing as an evil person, and where do you stop? Indeed, Americans did evil things, and what if your American was a guard and just beat some Japanese in the camps because
And then
they
you also-
talked a funny language?
That would be a
And
fun
then you-
game.
and
And
What?
then you got
And that was
transferred.
the point I wanted to bring up before about how both sides have done like bad things.
Yeah,
like, I'm not trying to
but
equalize it,
that's
but,
not
like
that's not to equivocate, but to
I'm not equivocating. I'm just saying that like the whole myth that it was like, oh, good versus evil is a bit
And
like
the
simplifying
other thing
things.
you have to think about is that, in a sense, it's kind of relative, because what if you're playing like this is of course with the Nazi Germany thing it's different, and this kind of gets into later on where they talk about other things, right? But what if you're someone from the Middle East and you're from Iraq and you're playing an American game where you're seeing the Americans as heroes, but America fucked up your country, right? Like, it kind of, like, the idea of good versus evil is always kind of relative to the individual perceiving.
Oh yeah, they go into terrorists
but that's
later.
later.
And I'll actually have a few words to say about that.
We'll get more into that later, but I just want to use this to kind of make this point of, like, the perception of good versus evil is relative, right? So, just because America likes to see itself as the hero in a lot of cases, because most of this media comes from America, someone like you could make this argument of, oh, playing as a Nazi. Well, what if you're from a place where America is seen as evil? Because America came in, they bombed the shit out of your hometown, they fucked up your country irreparably almost, right? They're seen as the bad guys in a lot of places in the Middle East. Yet, here you are, playing as America, right?
Let me get a little bit political. Just a little
Yeah,
bit.
here we go!
Just a little bit.
Let me get a little bit
let me
political. I'm gonna throw my shit. Put in the meme of the guy a few drinks later.
Yeah. So, the Iran, America withdrew from the Iran deal. Now the Iran, these straits next to Iran, the water canal is unstable, and a lot of tension is there, and the only party who is really to blame for this tension is America, because everything was fine, but then America did some shit and now it's unstable, and
It was a purely political move to pull out of that accord.
Now America is going to his allies, quotation marks, and say, "You're my ally. Send soldiers there because it's unstable." Well, why is it unstable? America, doesn't matter. It's unstable. No, it's of course America's fault. It's unstable. Yeah. So when this hypothetical leads to a war, is America then the good guy?
That's a good point. Good point.
Well, these games are going to be made in America. I think we kind of know.
That's something to remember as well. Is when you're
This is something we're going to get into later when they're talking about the terrorist aspect, because there's a bit of history they're forgetting about the games industry when they go down that path. Right, but keep going.
So let's continue. Let's see where they go.
When it switched you to the German side, did it go out of its way to tell you that the person you're playing was pressed into service under threat of their life? Yeah, that's a big old nope. Oh, and on a similar note, let's please stop forcing people to play as terrorists as well. There you are, playing your modern shooter, and all of a sudden you're a terrorist. You didn't ask for this, you didn't choose this, and yet second...
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me. I want to go first. I want to go first and just say...
Go ahead.
Define terrorist. Because a terrorist... Like again, relativism, right? Relativism.
Let's not take it too far, but we know what.
Well, where I'm going with this is, like, again, from a different perspective, America is a terrorist shit. Like they're using violence to push a political aim, aren't they? So technically, wouldn't they be classed as terrorists in certain contests?
With terrorists, it isn't necessarily violence.
Okay,
it's generally
I just
fear.
A definition of terrorist. Noun: a person, usually a member of a group who uses or advocates terrorism. A person who terrorizes or frightens others.
Okay.
What's this? Terrorism. Here it is. Terrorism. Okay. The use of violence and threats to intimidate or coerce, especially for political purposes.
Right. So
the state of fear and submission.
So
they're usually non-state actors, though, which is we usually tend to separate aggressors
like AntiFur
from.
is a terrorist organization.
No one cares about AntiFur. It's not the point.
Let's stay on topic, right? Lolly, go.
Okay, so one of the major reasons the Modern Warfare games were criticized heavily back in the day, right, was how black and white they portrayed America's involvement in the Middle East. All of these brown people, I'm just going to say brown people, all these brown people of different flavors that you were shooting were automatically the bloodthirsty bad guys who had no legitimate reason to have been involved in this. They were just, evil for the sake of evil, basically completely ignoring all of the history involved with, terrorist groups in the Middle East. It doesn't go over not one Call of Duty game that I can think of went over, our funding of the Mujahideen back in the day, the split that happened. It simplifies it. It boils it down to this person's the enemy, shoot. It's funny because Extra Credits is very left-wing. This kind of does some horseshoe theory shit right here, but they are unironically pushing the same message George W. Bush was pushing back at the opening part of the Iraq War. You're either with us or against us.
Yes,
and
and this pushes a very sort of like American-centric view of, hey, if you're not with us, then you're a terrorist, die. Like, it basically simplifies everything to like if you're not part of the
and it's just a weird view.
You didn't really finish. Like, it basically, like, it's almost like he's pushing this, like, it's almost like these games are pushing this point of, hey, if you're not a part of the America Eagle, fuck yeah, hoorah, then die, terrorist scum. Like, it's just really boiling down shit to its like basic components.
Yeah, no, and it's weird because there was a time like back in the mid-2000s where people like legitimately wanted more nuance with these situations, and I've only seen a handful of games put you in situations where you might have to play as a guerrilla or a terrorist regiment. There was a bit in Arma 3's campaign, for example.
Yeah, well, like, speaking of these quote-unquote terrorists, like, they could be just doing this because, hey, the Americans are invading my country, they blew up my village, my son or my daughter got killed, I'm really angry and pissed. Yeah, like, I want to kick these bastards out.
Yeah, it's just...
I mean, there's a myriad of reasons that just kind of aren't going.
Well, I'm just using that to example. Like, you've got, like, Ahmed, Ahmed the terrorist, he's just a simple farmer, minding his own business, P's and Q's, and then fucking bombs drop on his village, he's the only survivor, and, he finds out this is happening to other people.
As Lolly said, there are many examples that you could use to create a pretty easy backstory as to why someone would partake in the act of terrorism, right? It's
okay. Well,
and that's another thing too. Like with a multiplayer game that you're just sitting down and having a pick up and go match, for the most part, like, you're not you're not thinking about the historical context, because you could do this for every war related game. Every war has a myriad of social, political, and just even things like environment or cultural reasons that wars happen. But like, nobody's expecting when you're playing Rising Storm 2 to go over exactly why you're shooting at the Vietnamese.
Yeah, and again, I think it comes down to the idea of, kind of relative sort of shit, where it's like, okay, so what type of terrorist are you talking about, right? Because here's the thing, right? We could even be talking about AntiFur. And, I would be willing to bet that Extra Credits is sympathetic to AntiFur's cause because they're lefties, right? That's an assumption, I'll admit, right? I don't know for sure if they're sympathetic to it, but let's just assume for a minute that they are, right? If you're playing a video game where the two sides are the alt-right and AntiFur, right? But AntiFur are the ones that actually do partake in terrorism. They literally do partake in terrorism using violence to intimidate and coerce people, right? That's essentially what they do at their rallies, right? It's video proof of this happening, right? If you were forced to play as AntiFur, regardless of your political leanings, you would be being forced to play as a terrorist. So the same logic here applies. You didn't choose this. You didn't choose to play as an AntiFur terrorist. So why are you...
Or you're an alt-right and you're forced you're forced to post online racist memes and degrading comments.
You're forced to go on poll.
That's a fate worse than death.
Point, the post
you're on poll. Oh, the horror. But this is what I mean, though, right? Like, it's kind of like the argument can go both ways, in a sense. And I feel like that's something that Extra Credits is missing here in this idea of playing as X normalizes X, right? I think it's
So you're saying if
I may go again,
so Extra Credit is missing nuance then.
Let Ellie talk.
Well, I was also in one.
Extra Credits has in this video the weird tendency to portray America as a great thing, because indeed it is Germany who is bad, America who is good. It is the terrorists who are bad, it's America that is good. And it's kind of preemptive labeling sides beforehand and then labeling the other guy as evil and putting a political quarantine around the evil guys.
It's also, as Lolly mentioned, very interesting because they're left-leaning, and the left tends.
I think
these guys gave
probably an oversight in their thinking.
These
also
these guys. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and also this type of mindset is kind of terrifying and scary when you think about it, because when you define yourself as good, like right off the bat, and everyone else that's against you is evil. You can basically just justify any act you do because you're good, you're always in the right. And that kind of mindset is kind of terrifying.
Yeah, I don't think it's that far in this. It's still just about video games.
Right.
I know, but first it's about video games, and then it's about...
That's a slippery, slopey argument.
It's a slippery slope.
Right.
And that's why I'm terrified.
Alright, we'll let Lolly go and make the last point, and then we'll move on.
Well, I mean, they are making a slippery slope argument here, but no. What I was gonna say is that these are the same people that gave praise to Spec Ops: The Line, which intentionally put in a morally gray situation.
Yeah.
In which the bad guys aren't necessarily the bad guys. They're basically, I guess, because they live in an environment where like they want to have a clearly defined bad guy. They're advocating dehumanizing things, and that's really fucking weird.
Spec Ops: The Line is actually also really good. I recommend it. So yeah, let's continue.
First, same as the first.
Only a minute
there it
in.
is. I mean, that's literally the name of your side in the game. We can do better than this. Even if you put aside all of the people who have had traumatic experiences with these groups, who have lost loved ones to terrorists, or who have had generations of their families wiped out by Nazis, no one should have to put on the costume of an ideology they find abhorrent without actually opting into it in your game.
Stop for a second. What about, the families of the German soldiers who died? Or the families of the terrorists
no one cares
who died?
About them.
They
don't matter, Lolly.
matter.
What are you talking about? Who?
And even so, I don't think that kind of relativism is really relevant here.
I know, but he's basically saying it's like, oh, these people suffered. Well, so did other people suffer.
Well, yeah, it's just we don't care about the evil guys, so we care only about the good guys.
That's pretty much the point. Yeah.
What of their families?
Well, of course.
I mean, you may not care.
They're evil families.
They're evil. You have to think of it from the.
Well,
you have to think of it from their logic, right? Because they've already dehumanized that.
I will define evil for you right now, Bio. It's when you go against God's holy kingdom on earth, the United States of America, you are evil by default. You're satanic.
Okay, so I'm evil. Okay, sweet.
God.
Alright, thank you, Willie. You've given my life purpose.
Well, God, I've completely fucking lost my shit there.
I just turned Bio into a radical Satanist. Good, did it.
I think I was going to say.
Let's continue.
I was going to say was.
Praise
What
Beelzebub.
I was going to say is that they have already dehumanized the opposing side to the point where even if you the answer to that question is, what about it doesn't matter because they're evil. Right, they've already passed the point of no return in that respect, where they've dehumanized the enemy side.
Yes, and this
right?
is
so.
And this is the slippery slope, because when you define yourself as good, everything you do is for the greater good, and nothing matters. No nuance, nothing. Like, you can cause untold amounts of suffering on others, but it doesn't matter because you're good, and it's for the greater good.
Let's continue.
Making people do so, we get them to stop thinking about it, to stop thinking of the meaning behind these things. We normalize them. We make them just window dressing for entertainment. Those uniforms, those symbols, become things that
I didn't want to bring it up, but I'm going to bring it up. The Iron Cross is not a Nazi symbol, and it's
Prussian.
Okay, now, on one hand, I understand not showing swastikas or any of that in a YouTube video because YouTube doesn't like that, right? They do take down videos that have that symbolism in it, right? So, from that respect, I can understand not having those symbols in the video, or having them blurred out, or having them whatever. What I don't like is the idea that you're taking another symbol, which means something completely different, and making it out to be the same thing. That's where I've got a problem with this, right? Because a lot of people have brought this up in other videos, right? But my issue with it is not necessarily just, they're too afraid to use the swastika because they're pussies or da-da-da-da. No, because again, I understand the why. I understand why because it's not their fault, right? It's YouTube's fault. But that doesn't excuse you using a symbol which, even though was used by the Nazis, is not necessarily an actual Nazi symbol, and is even still used in the German military today, right? Like, German aircraft and tanks and stuff still have the Iron Cross on them. So, to make the Iron Cross out to be a Nazi symbol, I believe, was a very big mistake on their part, and they deserve to get ripped away from it.
Yeah. Also, the swastika was actually borrowed by one of the sects of Buddhism.
It's inverted and placed on its side.
That too. That is a valid point. But it doesn't particularly matter in terms of the eyes of YouTube.
Hitler took the Manzi and drew it like a retard.
Was basically just borrowed from another culture as well. So
but anyway, anyway,
as good as naval. The swastika is just the Manzi, but Hitler was drunk that day. So
he drew it like that one guy drew it on that wall. Have you seen that meme where the guy did the Oh man, that's great. But my point here is just that, I feel like it was just a really big mistake, and what I would have done if it was me is I would have done just made up a symbol that was somewhat like a swastika but wasn't really a swastika.
I do fear that extra critics believe that the Iron Cross is a legitimate symbol of Nazism.
Yeah, I would be. Yeah, it's a good.
We need to give them the benefit of the doubt.
That is a very solid assumption, but again, I'm trying to be fair.
Well, it's more of a fear than a
because here's the thing: these guys technically, since they do videos on history and they do stuff like that, they should know this, right? It's one of those things where it's I feel like they probably used the Iron Cross because they couldn't really think, they're lazy and just couldn't think of anything else they could have used. Even though, I don't know, does YouTube ban the SS logo? I think they probably do. Yeah, they probably do. Or maybe you could do an SS. You could do.
They want to scrub all.
You could do maybe an SS logo and put a line through it or something. People would know what you're talking about, right? Without having to. I don't know. I guess it's misinformation. I don't know. But
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It
but
basically is.
again, I just wanted to bring this up because I know a lot of other people brought it up, but a lot of other people's arguments were just, oh, well, SJW, pussy, blah, blah, blah. Where it's, I don't know, I feel it's a bit more, like, I think there is justification for it, but it's they chose the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, I'm just posting some pictures of like World War One.
Well, the viewers are not going to
Yeah,
see
the viewers,
it, so...
the viewers
Well,
are
you
not
guys
going
are
to
gonna
see it.
see
So
it,
let's continue.
Longer inherently revolt us. They reduce our visceral reaction to seeing the embodiment of these ideologies. Now, does this make us totally ignore the history that comes with them? No. But for some people, it moves them from the territory of revolting to just edgy. It makes scrawling a swastika on something a change.
I have 2 points. And on one point is I saw somebody else make, and another point is I'll make first. Why are things edgy? Because they're controversial. Because they straddle the line.
Because they get reactions out of people.
Yeah, so if
something's normalized, it can't be edgy,
Yeah,
and as a
basically
result,
that.
most people would... It's a self-correcting problem in the sense, because suddenly it's no longer edgy, and people just kind of roll their eyes to it, like, that's no one cares.
A point that I was going to make is that if it's normalized... Alright, let me hang on, I'm trying to come up... I gotta remember it now. Like, if you normalize something, right, isn't that technically... not necessarily a good thing, but wouldn't limit, like, I'm trying to think of this from the perspective, like, from the worldview of the leftist, right? For lack of a better word, right? Wouldn't wanting to stop people from feeling disgust, anger, harm, negative emotions, wouldn't that be the end goal of their ideology? Therefore, normalizing the symbol and therefore having people not be offended by it be a good thing?
Allowing people to look at history from a broader perspective, which can in turn help people prevent tragedies like, the Holocaust from happening again. Isn't that the whole goal of learning history, so you don't make the same mistakes?
Forget history are doomed to repeat it and all that, but that's kind of where I'm getting at here is wouldn't normalizing the symbols and making them not edgy and making them just sort of like, oh yeah, that's the Nazi symbol of the Nazis. Wouldn't that be a good thing? Yet they're making it out as if it's a bad thing.
Well, I think the problem is that if you normalize something that is considered bad, it diminishes the message that it could send, and it's what the point that was being made here. If you no longer recognize a symbol as being a warning sign of being bad, you can more easily fall into the dangers of it. But the second point I wanted to make was that something can be evil, but we don't really need to be disgusted by it. To base your your moral judgment on your disgust of it, on your visceral reaction, where does it leave us if you're just going to judge everything on base visceral reactions?
Funnily enough, I was legitimately about to make that same point. I was about to say, essentially, you can have something be normalized, but also still recognize the history of it and the fact that it was used for evil and was bad, right?
Well, let's use guns in America.
Right.
Is it a good example? A gun is normal in America, but still pretty dangerous and deadly.
I wouldn't quite say that.
All right.
I wouldn't say that to be an equivalent, I think.
I know, but I would say that like a gun is a weapon.
I wouldn't even like go so far as to say like, yeah, it's a weapon, but I'd also say it's a tool.
I mean, under that argument, you'd be saying that, the no gun symbols normalizes the gun, or normalizes a certain negative attitude towards it, which, I mean, isn't really... beyond the point, what they're missing is that context matters with symbology. seeing a kid, a stupid teenager draw a swastika in their
Failed
notebook
swastikas.
is, failed swastikas in their notebooks.
Unironically, I knew a kid in high school who was not at high school for very long. Yeah, there's that one.
Everybody
You always
did.
had that.
I saw
one
them. I saw them.
Right? You always had that one edgy guy.
Yeah.
Who was the skinhead.
You see them drawn in the bath. You draw them in the bathroom. The kids did it because it was edgy, but like that's different than seeing it on an actual propaganda piece. Like most people,
it's also different when you see someone like being like a fucking Nazi skinhead with like the tattoos and shaved head and shit like that. Like it's different.
Most people can recognize the difference between the historical context and the propaganda context, but Extra Credits' issue here is they are kind of blurring the two together in a sense that they,
like I think these people haven't been exposed to actual crazy rambling bullshit, like because seeing somebody make an edgy meme on Pull, whatever. Actually, like being in the position where you see that Symbology and that memes are coupled with, like, I don't know, the Daily Stormer or something, you realize there's two different contexts there. Like, it's not the symbol that drives you away. It's the crazy that you read after that drives you away. It's not the, it's not the fact that, it's like approaching like somebody who legitimately has a mental aberration, as it were. Like, it's not their exterior necessarily that drives you away from them. It's everything they're yelling that signals the alarm. Like, most people are going to like see a swastika and then immediately go to, and this is another thing, this completely discounts previous life experiences. People are attracted to these ideologies because they have been exposed. They have had some sort of event that has reinforced a negative preconceived notion that, maybe it was something by their parents, maybe it was something somebody said, and it reinforces it, and then they seek out the groups that agree with it because that's a confirmation bias. That's how these people recruit. You'll see it with why you see a lot of young people now joining either AntiFur or, various, I can't even really say the alt-right's a group, but, just kind of...
It's group enough.
It's like a movement with its own subgroups.
The alt-right is very interesting. It's a very decentralized structure.
I mean, Antifa is run by Twitter accounts, so I would say it's also
Antifa is decentralized as well, but there's clearly more.
It's kind of weird because Antifa is somehow more centralized because they all identify as the same thing.
I know this is getting a little bit off topic, but
you can everybody can immediately identify somebody who's a member of Antifa because they wear it on their shoulder. You only ever get accusations of somebody being an alt-right because most of the time it's not something that's as easily defined. It's weird. The alt-right, despite being a fascist movement, as it were, is somehow more anarchical and structured than the actual anarchists.
It's a bit off topic, but it's very interesting to talk about.
It's just clown world. Don't worry about it.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's continue.
From unthinkable to just dangerous. It means you might not take iron crosses all over a website as a warning sign.
What was that you were saying earlier in the
about like 15 minutes to when I'm talking about iron crosses. All right, like this is another again. Like, no, you idiots. The iron cross. They should have said swastika. They should have just said swastika. Instead, like they could have shown the iron crosses and just said swastika. Or shown like blued out swastika. I mean, you would get made fun of, right? They would have gotten made fun of for blurring out the swastika, but at least,
for different reasons.
That's more understandable. Because Forgotten Weapons blues out the swastika in his thumbnails, right? Like,
military history visualized does it too.
They could just have They could just have a text box that just says insert
Maybe.
Swastika here.
I mean, you don't even have to do that. You can have a blurred out thing and just say the phrase Nazi, or just say like Nazi or fascist iconography, as it were.
It's not difficult, right? And I love this idea of stupid AF/hate garbage. Like, again, like, for fuck's sake, like.
I mean, it is stupid as fuck to like,
it is in line with their style in this. So
I find it interesting. What I find interesting is I know exactly they're talking about Stormfront. Like, I know for a fact that that's what they're talking about. Even.
I mean, that they were stupid as fuck. People made fun of them a lot.
That's how I know about fucking
but...
Stormfront, is because people make fun of the fact that Stormfront is a thing.
Oh, I believe, I don't know if it's really from Stormfront, but I saw some kind of post that bemoaned the fact that all of those racist alt-righter etc. are really like Asian ladies.
Yeah, that's great.
So
this was something that goes back to a Something Awful used to do these really good articles on like different internet communities they found that were kind of weird, and one of the funniest ones was when they were doing Stormfront, because like there was an actual post that was like something along the lines of, "Man, all non-white people suck except Japan."
Yeah, the alt-right has a very interesting relationship with Japan, I believe. I think it, from what I've heard, right, it has something to do with
Asian women.
Well, not just Asian women. They have a fetishization of, I believe, imperialist Japan, I think is the thing, because they...
I have a story to tell you when I get back, but I need to get some alcohol. Go on.
From what I understand, it's got something to do with the fact that Japan is very... Like, it's the meme of Japan being very, very xenophobic, very isolated, very ethno-statey, very, so they sort of fetishize the idea of an imperialist Japan as sort of like a guidebook, right, of what they want to do, which I think leads into the idea of Asian women being okay, because Asian women are from a similar, like, that. Again, I'm trying to view this from their warped perspective, right? Like, I don't actually believe any of this bullshit. I'm just trying to like compartmentalize it in my head. Yeah, obviously.
God, okay.
Like,
thank God.
Not disavowed yet,
right? Yeah. Like this is just like me going off what I've seen of them talking and like different perspectives of it.
Yeah, well, a lot of these people don't actually know about Japanese culture, or even pretend to understand, or read books about it, or even try to
watch
anime.
You'll learn everything.
Which is why I say that it's fetishization, right? They have a warped perception of reality as to what it actually, which is different to what it actually is. Because there are nuggets of, like, Japan's xenophobia is quite well known, other little nugget. There are nuggets, and I know Bio, you'll talk more about, because you know a little bit more about this than probably I do. But like, there are nuggets of truth to that stuff. But I think what they do is they exaggerate it, and then fetishize that exaggeration. So I'll let you go.
Yeah. So from my experience and what I've read, so like from what I've read in books, and also my actual experience with Japanese people, is that like, They tend to be a bit more nationalistic, and there is maybe a tiny bit of xenophobia, but like generally it's not going to be like a problem. Like if you're an outsider or a gaijin, like I've actually talked to Japanese people, and they actually like I've actually got some very interesting reactions when I actually say Japanese words to them, or say something in Japanese to them, or basically say like, oh, is that a kimono or a yukata, and like I get very surprised. I get very interested reactions. Like they seem very positive, because I think they're shocked that I know those words, or they're shocked that I actually know what it is. So I feel like if you are like speaking Japanese to them, or essentially making you know a bit about their culture, they're going to.
Culture, I think is what you're getting at.
I
think
like,
it's
they will look more positively towards you because I'm not going to say this in like a a condescending way, but you're speaking to them on their level. Like you're actually making the effort to understand the Japanese mindset, or at least try and understand them on a cultural level. And a lot of Japanese people will actually dig that.
Right. I think it's also because
that's just my experience.
Well, I think it's also because I think within the last 2 decades, at least, the Japanese are also becoming significantly less xenophobic as there are more younger people that are exposed to foreign media and just foreigners in general taking an interest. So there's a lot more of a cross-cultural communication, as it were.
Yeah, the younger generation.
Yeah, but I think like it.
Yeah.
It's like Macross.
I've had the same experience with like older and younger generation. Like they feel like they look more positively towards me because I actually take the effort because I know a bit about their culture. Like I know the general greetings. I know what is polite and what is impolite. I know some aspects of Shintoism. I know the names of some of the kami. I know what they represent.
So on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, it really helps. It helps as a minority culture if somebody else takes an interest in it. Because if somebody were to say study Dutch, learn the language, that I say, whoa, interesting. Studying a small language like that. Oh, you can ride a bike. They're practically Dutch already.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, I mean, to integrate into the Netherlands, you need to.
Is biking a major thing in Denmark?
Denmark?
Really?
Dutch. Denmark disavows.
Netherlands. Whatever.
This racism. Xenophobia. I knew Americans.
You Europeans all look alike.
But no, in Holland, in the Netherlands, in
Netherlands.
Holland,
I meant
Netherlands.
Netherlands.
Continue.
Biking and cycling is a very big part of the culture. I'm trying to remember because again, half of my family is actually Dutch, so I know this is quite a. Funnily enough, when I was a kid, I did. Funnily enough, when I was a kid, we did have wooden shoes, and there was a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, I guess getting back on the rails.
My family is Hispanic, and I have a knife right there.
Okay, well, getting back
Don't
on
do the
track.
third line.
Just this part on using the Iron Cross. Yeah, just refer back to what I said earlier about the Iron Cross.
I'll tell you the story in a bit, but keep going.
You should immediately leave, and if you don't leave, you might start reading and buying into hateful ideas there. It seems like such a small
pause right again, but again, it's like they just assume people are just fucking retarded. Like they just assume.
I just want to mention this. Like, I actually read books from like tons of different philosophers. From Aristotle to Plato to Machiavelli to Nietzsche, and even if I may disagree with some of their ideas, I still read it
like
because
they
it's
just
useful
assume,
information.
Yes, of course, you're going to get people that are stupid enough to buy into it, right? Like, of course, but that again, it's assuming the worst of people. It's assuming that everyone. Oh, you're gonna get. It assumes that.
God.
Oh no! You accidentally clicked on Stormfront and you read a little bit of Stormfront. Then oh no!
Oh no! I know.
Asian
God. Ladies are.
Oh my God! Naretsu, fucking, these are the people that would unironically want to ban on something like Mein Kampf because they assume that everybody who reads it in the modern context is going to immediately just buy into the ideals with no critical thought. It is a very cynical mindset.
You read something,
really,
and then you just immediately adopt it, right?
I have a copy right there that was given to me by my cousin because she picked it up at Barnes & Noble, and she thought it was going to be something edgy, but it's just Hitler whining about his nation and his father for a lot of pages. and like, I'm libertarian. I am the literal opposite of a fascist.
Yeah, it's like, again, they think that people are just stupid. They think...
Yeah, what I do want to bring up a point that I made earlier, almost an hour ago. In that there is a point in that if you're trying to empathize a character who is a Nazi by, perspective, life experience, and then justifying it, and even with anti-vaxxers and cult, etc., that is kind of sketchy. Because then you're justifying it as just as much, at least for this character, and that is more troublesome, problematic, maybe even. But just reading some crazy ass posts on Stormfront is a very different, lower magnitude.
Yeah. Anyway, let's keep going.
Simple thing. But it's things like this that erode our safeguards against dangers we sacrifice so much to fight. By the time you've played 100 hours of being a Nazi, their voice stabs become memes and in-jokes with your friends. By the 1000th time you've respawned as a terrorist, you're either celebrating them or making fun of them, neither of which helps the global...
This is again, your level of disgust determines how moral something is.
Well, I mean... Man, I'm not going to say that hours of playing Insurgency has just, like, made me support, like, what was it, Boko Haram, but man, I'm suddenly on board. Shit, you're right.
Players can all agree that we've played Tigers while playing German marching music, okay? I think we can all agree that, that we've gone into battle with fucking...
I have asked for so many GFs on RuneScape. Constantly.
Let's talk about how problematic Guffix is.
Oh, fuck yeah, get some fucking Sabaton and that shit, fuck yeah. Good shit.
I love... I actually been listening to a few Sabaton things.
The new album came
music
out
is
recently.
really great.
I know we're getting off topic, but the new album was... The new album was all about World War One. It's really fucking good. Red Baron is a fucking lit song. It's fucking good.
Oh,
I fucking love Red Baron. I'll do it later. I'll do it.
Link it. I want to listen.
I'll put it. I'll do.
Red
no,
Baron.
I'll do it later. I'll do it after we're done recording. But yeah, no. This idea that playing as like a terrorist or whatever, and then all of a sudden like their clips become memes between your friends and all this other shit. It's like I don't think I've ever played a World War II game where like Nazis voice lines or whatever have become like a meme. Like the only one that I can think of which isn't actually related is War Thunder. You've got a hole in your left wing. That's the only one I can think of that is actually. You got a hole in your left wing. Yeah, that's the only one that I actually
We suffered defeat. Go back to base. Oh my god, the fake black guy is great.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I mean, as
hang on, what do
somebody
you mean
who plays Rising Storm 2,
the clearly Russian voice actor trying to be a black guy.
Be a black guy. I like
that would be amazing.
It's actually a Russian black guy.
Anyway,
I legitimately want that. No. As somebody who's played Rising Storm 2 way too much, I can assure you that I actually hang out in the woods now and establish punji stick traps for GIs to just kind of go over.
Massive cave network.
By the way, speaking of games that have memeable lines, holy shit, Rising Storm 2 is great because of all the broken English.
Fuck you, GI! Go home, GI!
Oh no, we're gonna become Viet Cong now, lol. Oh no.
Hell yeah.
We're gonna retake
Saigon.
Oh yeah. Sorry, just not to just suddenly go back to the topic of the video.
Alright, you go.
But he mentioned neither of which are going to solve the world's problems.
Well, yeah, no, because they see video games, they see all entertainment as serving a means to a social end, whereas most people...
Well,
which problems?
That's a good question.
I guess they're going to snake around that because they don't want to say it directly, but...
just out of topic, like, actually it is part of topic, like, on Twitter, the word Nazi is trending in New Zealand.
God bless. Anyway, continue.
Right.
Yeah, what problems are they talking about? But that kind of goes into the idea of everything is political, everything is propaganda, right? Like, they view everything as being propaganda in some
Well, yeah,
some point.
I have my own views on how that's being meant. What you're supposed to take out of it. I'll just repeat it real quickly. Everything is political I think is better understood as everything is cultural.
I think we've gone through that before. Yeah.
For reference.
And that's the thing, is I feel like when it comes to that argument, even though it's slightly off topic, there's a mix-up, like a crossing of the wires in terms of the communication, right? Because when people say they don't want politics in games, they're not talking about politics as in the topic of politics.
They just don't want politics that's so watered down that it resembles something you see on daytime television.
To be propagandized to, I believe, is the more like overtly propagandized to.
One of the best things about Deus Ex and how it was written is that they specifically wrote it so that either side of the fence would think that it's talking to them.
And that's what people
And that's a very
want.
interesting...
They want to be able to make their own determinations based on their own stuff.
It bridges the gap because it makes people, more likely to either share or like expound upon ideas and maybe get a new perspective.
That's the issue
on
that
things.
I think. Yeah, a lot of these games, politics in games, everything is political, everything is propaganda. Type people, they tend to miss that kind of point of, having different viewpoints and different sides in games. Again, no one complains about Spec Ops: The Line being too political. Why would that be?
No, I think. Here's the thing. There's a roleplay element to almost all games, and one of the things that games allow you to do that no other medium allows you to do is it allows you to make the very specific moment-by-moment decisions that allow you to just bring the story in a new direction. And I think that's what people are looking for in games that are political. They want to be able to explore safely, as it were, the sides that might be more extreme. You can learn something by exploring the extreme sides. I don't believe in the whole, that you just shouldn't be exposed to controversial ideas. That's ridiculous. Yeah. But, if I'm wrong, these people are right. Let's continue. Because shit, it's been an hour and this video is only 6 minutes long.
Well,
this is the most disjointed video we've ever done.
There's a lot to talk about in terms of the topic, so let's continue.
Crisis we have that takes
I'm also getting drunker by the minute.
So what do? That's easy. Don't make them morally equivalent. Don't make there be no in-game moral difference between your Nazis and your allies, between your terrorists and your counter-terrorist squads. Frame PvP as a training exercise, or simply...
Hey,
these solutions are really dull and boring. And
did the Germans and the Americans ever do training exercises during World War II?
Okay. So the Americans and the Germans did. In Russia, the training exercise was, we're going to have you charge this machine gun line, or we're going to shoot you in the back of the head.
This idea,
Good luck.
And I love how they use nerf. It's like they're actually saying that they want everything to be, like, safe, right? Like, we have to make it safe.
Here's the thing. If you want to explore an idea, why not encourage people to make more single-player games that are exploring these ideas, rather than wanting to sanitize multiplayer games. Like, I absolutely would love a game where you're allowed to play as, say, the German or a German soldier
even just
during
like a German pilot, German tank, just whatever.
It would be kind of interesting to play as a German who hears rumors of concentration camps and slowly has his beliefs questioned and etc. and then maybe defects and then dangerous and then try the burden of betraying your allies, your friends.
There's a lot you can do with that. There's a lot and yeah, there's a lot you can do with that. But yeah, these solutions, like I kind of want to break down each of them because they're really stupid. But this first one where it's like, oh, well, why don't you just frame PvP as just being training exercises and that everyone's wearing nerfy bloody bullshit? Like, it's not what people want, and it's not really... It's really, really silly. It's just like...
People want
like, right now, realism and immersion are the hot words of the day, right? People want...
I mean, if they want something like this, they have something like Splatoon.
Exactly.
Like, it's just different markets, man.
Kind of fills that niche of shooter for like not necessarily watered down, because I understand that.
I want a multiplayer game, a really competent multiplayer FPS where I shoot the clothes off of other cute girls, but we can't all get what we want.
Well, I mean, you got not really Splatoon. I think is a good example. More like Titanfall.
Titanfall's probably a better example.
Yeah, but even then, with Titanfall, they very much have kind of a political angle, There's the frontier corporations that are really apathetic, and then you have, like, the local military stuff. Like, it's still... Because science fiction tends to still emulate real-world political ideologies. Like, you can make the same argument of, well, I mean, just do something like a Gundam game. Like, yeah, you could do something like a Gundam game, but, like, we all know what the Xeon are based off of.
And also, Titanfall 2's single-player was also really good. It was a really good single-player.
Yeah, I actually really played it. It was pretty good.
So, yeah.
Very fun. A lot of fun.
You go in expecting a hardcore military experience, and you get a boy in his robot story.
Optimus
it's great.
Prime, and it's you, because it's great that the robot is voiced by Optimus Prime. It's fucking great.
it's so cute. It's so cute.
I hope they make.
Well, maybe if Apex
and they have him in the robot again.
I'll make a Titanfall 3.
I want Titanfall 3 because it was a very hard.
It's a shame that it got destroyed
by
its robot. Like, it really deserved better. But anyway, let's see what the next solution is. Yeah.
I mean, I played it and I loved it. It was fun.
Take one of your non-odious sides and recolor them so that it's red versus blue, rather than Axis versus Allies.
What? Isn't that what they already, like,
enactment?
If you boil it down, isn't that what it already is? It's just red versus blue. Like, this is like basic concepts. Like that's you are literally describing Team Fortress 2, right? Literally.
Here's the thing: blue and red are. I'm going to put this out there. Blue and red are politically charged things.
Oh.
Blue is often Democratic or American. Blue for, red for, and for military jargon, red for is often things like Russia or whatever. You can politicize that. You can colors are probably the single most easiest thing to politicize because historically, and throughout prehistory, we politicized each other. We separated each other by the colors we wore on our shoulders.
Yeah, and colors are usually used to, like, symbolize things. Like, for example, purple in some cultures is used to symbolize, royalty or spirituality and shit. And in some cultures, white is to symbolize death or purity.
That's a little bit too broad, I think, for this topic.
I know, but I'm just going to add to that. I just want to add that colors have different meanings as well.
Now, I forget what empress of the Byzantine Empire once said, but I think she once said something along the lines of, "I wouldn't want to die not wearing the color purple," or something like that. colors have a very powerful, and it's very weird that they don't understand this. You can pull it as size anything. Like changing the colors is whitewashing, basically.
This and that, and just remove everything else, and then all of a sudden it's okay. Yeah,
you're changing the most superficial element of it.
I mean, we're talking about like Optimus Prime before, like in a joke. But if you look at like the Autobots, Decepticons, like they have the insignia, but it's also in color.
Yeah, red and purple.
Like Autobots are red. Yeah.
All right, let's continue.
And also the insignia.
Allies. A good example of a game that does this is Rainbow Six Siege.
Okay, this is gonna be
all of your bomb diffusion, and
this is an interesting example to use, but let's let them finish the point, and then we'll talk about it.
Hostage rescue multiplayer with no normalizing terrorists. In fact, by having all of the characters as counter-terrorists training for a possible threat, it highlights how real and present of a threat that is. And if you decide that you need to have both sides be playable.
Pause, because I'm going to put this out there. If you've read any of the Tom Clancy novels, I actually have one of the Rainbow Six novels on my shelf right now, because I read a lot of Tom Clancy when I was younger, which is appropriate because some of the writing in some of them is only suitable for a middle schooler. Now, with Rainbow Six, they absolutely didn't just have the terrorists be this very specific, vague threat. They specifically had them in the novel as being a ecological terror group. Like, and that's the thing, like, it's so cheap to say that you can't explore why people might commit radical acts simply because it normalizes them. It might potentially normalize them. That's a really fucked up idea. Like, okay, shit. Under this argument, you could say that Spec Ops: The Line normalized terrorists because it sympathized with them at some point as just being put in that situation. And this is. Hell, you could say Arma 3's campaign, because at some point you actually do have to side with what was just a black and white terrorist group at the beginning and later on turned to be fighting for a legitimate cause. You actually have to kind of switch sides and go on the guerrilla offensive at some point. It's interesting. Like...
And what I want to bring up is that in the Rainbow Six Siege game, you kill each other. It's very much you can say for your side it's freeing the hostage from terrorists, and from the other side it's kidnapping a guy for intel.
And most of the time when people are playing these multiplayer games, they're not thinking about, okay, I'm playing as a terrorist, what does their ideology mean? What they're thinking of, because our ideology is just flavor text in multiplayer, what they're thinking of is, how does this change my advantageous position? What steps do I need to take to counteract the other team? It changes their perception of strategy, not their perception of ideology. Because when I'm playing as counter-terrorist in Counter-Strike, I'm not thinking of what these people are fighting for. I'm thinking of what's the best vantage point, or what's the best choke point that I can camp out.
Yeah, talking about Siege, right? They
Anyways, continue.
The point of Siege being training exercises or whatever, right? It doesn't really matter, right? Because what Siege is essentially a team-based objective game. I actually don't know because I don't play Siege.
Is that even true?
I could believe it. Right? I could believe that is the background.
Who here has played Siege? Because that is weird for a Tom Clancy game.
Well,
to only have
I
it
could
as
assume
a training
that
exercise.
is like the flavor dressing, right? That it's the flavor dressing is it's a bunch of operatives doing a training exercise or whatever, right? I can believe that is the flavor text, and I will assume that is the correct flavor text for the time being, unless it's proven otherwise. But the thing is does that even matter? Does it even matter that it's a training exercise? You're still shooting people. They're still getting knocked out. There's still this. you're still
freeing
you're still doing like
hostages,
does that little tiny
catnaping.
piece of flavor actually change what you're doing? Right, you're still shooting people. I think there's still blood effects, right, when you shoot people, like mist and stuff. So I don't see how the fact that the two sides are not just like because in Siege you have the attackers and defenders, right? There are some there's different classes for attacking and defending that have different looks and different skills, right? It's not just like, oh, so you are the X team faction, right? You are playing it's like it's like Overwatch, right? In Overwatch it's not Germans versus America or whatever. It's these particular individual characters versus these particular individual characters. It's a team based thing, right? So my question, So my question is what they're saying. They want less team. They want less faction-based teams and more individual character-based teams. Is this what they want from games?
And here's the thing, though. I'm going to just put this out there in the case of Rainbow Six Siege and utilizing their own logic, because their logic is basically that the very act of playing as something is political. By praising Rainbow Six Siege, you could argue that they're normalizing the idea of a militarized police force.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just gonna toss that out at them. Shit, like, if you're gonna go that far, I'm going to go toss something that they probably disagree with. Maybe their praise of Rainbow Six Siege is a little, like, unwarranted. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever is a terrorist is whatever is classified as a terrorist by the local ruling sovereign or hegemony. It's somebody that's against the state, whether they're legitimate or not. I actually want to see what their opinion on that would be now that Antifa has actually been being classified by the FBI as being a terrorist organization, which is something that I'm not gonna lie, I have very mixed feelings on.
A bit off topic.
Whatever, that's not something we should.
Let's keep going. Let's see what, because I think they're about to get into the historical accuracy argument, which is one that I have a bit of a stake in. So let's have a look.
Don't make them interchangeable. Don't have players randomly spawn in as one or the other. Allow players to choose which side they're on. Now, of course, this has all sorts of in-game problems, such as creating shorter wait times for fascists. Okay. But you know what? Those wait times could...
Okay.
We're then just a little bit further.
...be artificially extended. If it meant players had an active choice in what teams they would represent, if you're saying we need people playing Nazis in our games.
Okay.
And
I want to point out the very slippery language he used right there. Right? He says... shorter wait times for fascists. Right? That's a very interesting phrasing. Okay?
He basically says that everybody who wants to play as a Axis is, per definition, a fascist.
I don't even want to get into it, because it should be perfectly fucking obvious to a normal human being how fucking stupid that is.
I am libertarian. And I love capitalism, but I will say this right now. There are some times where I really just want to play as the Russian side because their weapons have a specific aesthetic, or they have an interesting, maybe I just want to hear them shout Russian at sweet Russian in my ears.
And let's
also,
be
Russians
real
have
here.
pretty good vodka,
the Germans
which
have
I actually
really
like.
good fucking fashion sense, right? Like the Nazi aesthetic is very,
Hugo Boss,
very attractive, right?
The worst part about them, the real one of the negatives of them losing the war is they've basically ruined games for everybody. Yeah, that's
also trench coats and some of the other stuff. Like the Nazis, like what is it with these fascists and what is it with these fascist organizations and looking really stylish?
But
like they have a lot of style. It's really annoying.
Well, the ones
early Soviet. Soviet Union had some pretty interesting aesthetics. I actually have this entire archive of communist propaganda posters from all sorts of countries, somebody dumped this on Mega and uploaded it and like posted it on TG or something. I forget the context. I think it was somebody just looking for information. Some of it's really cool because it has kind of this modernist kind of aesthetic to it. It's really interesting. But yeah, no, that's kind of my point. Like, the team you choose doesn't necessarily reflect your ideology, especially when it's been detached so heavily from the ideology. Like, I could understand you being concerned if somebody was joining like a Nazi team in a video game when you were specifically having to go out and like hunt down people who were hiding or whatever. Like, you know, a game of hide and seek or something. Yeah, okay, sure. That could be a little fucked up and questionable, but at the same time, like, most people just hit join team. They don't even pick a specific team. They just pick a random team.
Picking teams in general, right? Because here's the thing, right? I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of offering players choice. Okay? I think that if you had the ability to be like, I prefer to play as, you know, Germans because I like how they look or whatever, right? I think that's perfectly valid. And there are already games that allow you to kind of do that, whether you could set a preference, right? And it might affect your wait times and match results and stuff like that, but, you know, it's... Well, the way that I would handle it is basically just be like,
I'm just going to put this out here.
Not necessarily like a hard, you can't play as one or the other. Just make it be like, I have a certain preference. It's like selecting what character you want to play in like Left 4 Dead or something.
Well, I bring up spawn mechanics because, again, Rising Storm 2, the side you play on affects how you spawn in the game. For example, if you're playing as the Americans, you can spawn on your squad lead, or you're spawning all the way back at base, or at spawn points. But if you're playing as the Viet Cong, however, you have to actually build tunnels, and you can spawn out of those tunnels, and it allows you to do like guerrilla flanking maneuvers and shit like that. So like that would be, but again, that wouldn't matter in this circumstance because he wants them to just be completely divorced from their context.
Killing, right? Like, I feel like you could have the ability to be like, set a preference. Yeah. However, if there is a situation where there are too many people on one preference to another, then it would make you be the other thing that you not necessarily don't want to play, but the thing that you didn't set the preference for, just so that it can create matches, right? I think exactly. Yeah. So that's why
that's why you shuffle teams.
Really, I think that the idea of offering players the choice of, you know, selecting a preference as to what faction they would rather play, either due to aesthetics or due to whatever, right? Whatever reason. Could be any reason. Doesn't matter. If you have a preference for one faction, you could select, I have a preference for this faction. The game will try and matchmake you into games which are it's needed that type of player. However, it would tell you that if it cannot find games within a certain amount of time, it would put you in a normal queue or something. I think that there are logical ways that you could work this out, which is not just increase the wait times for the fascists, right?
Like, here's the thing. I don't completely disagree with what they're saying here, because I think one of the things that multiplayers do that is kind of lazy is they don't work the faction into like the game or the level design. Again, I'm wanking Rising Storm 2 a lot, but how it handles the difference in strength and strategy between the Viet Cong and the US forces is actually really interesting, because it works it into the game design. So, on some level, I agree, but I think what they really want to say is they don't want people to be able to play as Nazis. Let's be honest, that's what they're actually saying here. It bothers them.
Here we go.
Let's keep going.
we need it for historical reasons, then your game better actually be historical. You can't really just hide behind the fact you called your desert map El Alamein and say, but it's historical. If that were the case, you need your PvP to at least represent real historical events and be a realistic take on those battles. Once you make both sides balanced, it's also no longer historical. And you can't really say that you need Nazis anymore for historical accuracy.
I know. I want to finish. I want to finish the whole.
Players get cool weapons that weren't actually at that particular battleground. It's also no longer historically accurate. And you can't declare that your game will suffer if you don't put players in the jackboots of the Third Reich.
Okay.
And once your map is something carefully designed...
Okay.
I don't think the point of, if you're not 100% to the last flower on the field exactly historical correct, you can just easily put
this is
the
a very
in.
common. This is a very common argument used against people who want. Yeah, it's a very common
is a thing.
counter to people such as myself that would rather have historical accuracy. And it takes me back to the days of debating people about Battlefield 5 when it was first announced and when they had, fucking mechanical arm lady and fucking samurai wielding black British man, right? People...
by the way, those katanas were standard issue in the Japanese army, so unless a British soldier or a soldier fought with the Japanese and captured one as a trophy, they wouldn't have it.
But
which could be an interesting
the
backstory, but
idea,
that's beyond the point.
But of people ask, it's actually very similar to people that go, they don't want politics in games, right? When someone like me goes, I want something that's historically accurate, that's, it feels historically accurate. We're not necessarily expecting things to be 100% to the flower in the field, as Ali said, historically accurate. What we're asking for is that things make consistency and aesthetic and tone, and that things make logical fucking sense, right? It doesn't make logical sense for a woman with a fucking phantom pain fucking hospital section arm, right, is running around with a machine gun, right? It doesn't... In an otherwise realistic setting. And when you're advertising your game, as they did at the time, as being historically authentic, historically, based, historically accurate, blah, 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 blah. It clashes with it. Right? If you were making the game and you just said, okay, so it's loosely based on World War II, it's going to have the same kind of feel, but we're going to be adding our own little flair to it. It's going to be a little bit different. Weird diesel. You could do
Why not have a weird science, like a weird World War II?
The Jews had some secret vaults around the world with some crazy future technology.
Yeah, and that was fucking great. That was fucking great in the New Order. But the thing is, the New Order set it up as being believable in its setting because that's what I mean. It was cohesive. It fit in naturally with it. Mechanical arms don't fit. Continue.
And speaking of the historical thing, is anyone here played Total War Shogun 2 or any of the Total War games? We can play as these historical factions. For example, I could literally play in Total War Shogun. There's a mod that allows me to play as the Portuguese in Total War Shogun, and I can literally take over all of Japan.
Right? It's
by the 1600s. By the way, using historically accurate technology of the time, I can literally play as the Portuguese because they were in Japan during that time and literally take over Japan.
But this is what I'm getting.
Not joking,
I'm getting
there's
at the idea that
he plays the Portuguese.
The dismissal of historic, it's weird how it's black and white, right? It's either you are creating a historically textbook accurate experience, which is 1-to-1, or
more for
you should
RPG.
Just not give a shit. You should just have jetpacks. You should just have fucking flight and people running around with birds' wings and shit, right? And here's the thing: that kind of shit again could be cool, But if you're going to do that, just don't fucking advertise it as being historically accurate. Just say...
Bringing back Battlefield, like the same series, Secret Weapons of World War II. You know how they justified having jetpacks and like early stage jets? They were secret weapons of World War II, and they were things they were working on at the time. Like, you have to establish the context in which something is, being made. No, I would not mind a weird World War II setting that had shit like fucking mechanical arms and giant robots and stuff like that. That can be kind of cool, but you can't try to pass it off as being an authentic experience. What people disliked about Battlefield 5, what people disliked about Battlefield 5 was the clash of tone and the lack of consistency in the product. What they put in that trailer did not add anything to the product.
I only have a quick point, and then I'll go. And you can tell by the difference between that initial trailer and the final game that I think they kind of realized how they fucked up a little bit. But you go by.
I mean, it would have been a really cool idea if, say, they did something like similar to like Tanya the Evil. It's like, we're going to take something based on World War II, but we're going to add a little spin on it. Like, we're going to have it like Steam.
Fantastic.
Like, I would play that. Like, they could just say like, hey, how everyone's making like World War II games? Let's make our own spin on it. Like, this is not. It's going to be based on it, but it's not. It doesn't have to be historically accurate. It's only based on it. Like, we're going to take the aesthetic of World War II. And hey, you know what? We're gonna take the aesthetic, and you can play. There's gonna be magic. There's gonna be giant robots. Let's turn it into this diesel steampunk setting.
Oh, you mean Gundam?
Awesome?
Gundam in World War II, yeah.
Yeah, Gundam.
And that's what I mean, right?
Actually,
like, we're repeating ourselves a little bit.
That would be fucking lit.
We're repeating ourselves a little bit.
That would be fucking lit, man. Why
like,
EA
people say that they want historical authenticity and they want all this. They just want it to be consistent and feel correct, right? To feel right.
Yeah. Like, if I'm playing like a samurai game based in the 1500s, I want weapons that a samurai could have in the 1500s. Like, I don't want him having a fucking assault rifle and a jetpack or a laser sword.
A lot of people made the argument, oh well, they're using weapons that weren't like. It's the same idea with War Thunder and paper vehicles, right? There's a big argument in the War Thunder community about the fact that there are vehicles in War Thunder that are technically not. Like, they didn't exist. Like, they had maybe, like, particularly when it comes to Japanese tanks, there's quite a few, where it's like the Hori, right? Where they had a schematic of it, or a, like, singular, like, picture of one, right? But, no, they didn't even have a prototype of it. They just had... That's why they call them paper vehicles. Oh. Yeah, they call that... Yeah. That's why they call them paper vehicles, because they only existed on paper, right? They didn't have actual data of, okay, here's the penetration values of the gun and the rounds, and because War Thunder kind of prides itself on the idea of it being a bit more accurate than a lot of other games, such as like World of Tanks, where they simulate armor values and penetration, and this armor was able to deflect this round and such, but it gets a bit iffy when we're talking about vehicles that never technically existed. So there's no, because they go off. Yeah, because they go off when they're making vehicles. They actually go off the historical values for a lot of them. So, but when you don't have those values, you kind of have to muck around a little bit, and that's why there's a bit of a debate with it. There's a divide in the community about, should these vehicles even be in the game, right? There's valid points for each side, right? And I'm not really on either side. I'm just bringing it up because it's an example of, yes, these things technically shouldn't be in the game if it was going to be 100% historically accurate. However, they make sense. They were technically ideas that were in development. They were... It could be believable that they could have created a prototype and they could have existed, right? It's not like in World War II you had a tank that shoot laser beams. It's like, okay, maybe they had a 105mm on a Tiger or something, right? Like, an experiment like that. and make it a paper vehicle that is in the game, yet never technically... Because there's also vehicles in War Thunder that never actually saw, like, proper military service, because they were either developed too close to the end of the war to be able to be in actual conflict, or they never really made it out of the testing and prototyping stage and that kind of thing. So... But even so, in saying that, just because they have these technically fictional vehicles in the game, doesn't detract from the fact that they are somewhat historically accurate, and that's what they're aiming for and striving towards, right? I feel like it's a case of that you should strive towards accuracy rather than make, like, perfection be the benchmark, if that makes any sense, right? But, yeah, I guess we should probably continue, because we're getting close. We're almost there. Almost there, so let's see.
Almost.
Designed to have good gameplay by a team in a room in San Francisco or LA, and it's not a faithful reconstruction of the actual places the historical events occurred in, you can no longer say we need to have players take up arms in service of terror.
Cite my
or
last
hate.
rant.
We're not saying we...
Pretty much.
Yeah. Oh, but I think here comes some weird...
Cite my last rant as well.
Yeah. And I think here he made the point of, if you disagree with us, if you want to play as a Nazi, you are a Nazi, and if your game is not 100% to the last flower said historically correct, then it's pointless to be out to ever even consider playing as the evil Nazis.
Right.
And now I think he's going to walk it back so hard.
Can't have games about World War II or about terrorism. We're not even saying we shouldn't make games where you play as a Nazi or a terrorist. But what we are saying is that the fact that you're playing as a Nazi or a terrorist in a game has to mean something. And it can't just be a skin. It can't be something that a game randomly drops you into. And really, if we are saying anything in this episode, it's this. Games can do better. And in this particular case, it's not even that hard to do better. And it's...
Backpedaling,
yeah,
backpedaling bullshit.
I mean, it's from
backpedaling.
It's from
hard.
huge condemnation, accusation, saying you're equivocating, playing as sharing in the beliefs of.
Yeah, and now it's
it's just you can do better. You know, just eat a little less.
It's really
exercise.
They go from like hard out, hardcore, fucking bullshit to just, we're not saying that you shouldn't make games in World War II and you shouldn't, but it's like that's exactly what you're fucking saying.
Hey, Nazism is bad.
Yeah, it's weird. It's like they realized how fucked it was, and kind of had to realize, we should probably walk this back a little bit. Well,
they still put out the video, so of course they didn't realize.
But yeah, it's kind of silly. But let's see if we can cap this off.
It's no more costly to do better. All it requires is that we in the game industry be cognizant of the world around us and what these symbols we're drawing on mean. That we think as we're building, not just about the game.
Do you know what they mean?
But about the world as a whole. If we can do that, we can take a big step forward for the industry. We can stop helping to normalize Nazis.
I really hate this fucking
blowing
kumbaya bullshit. Because
I think they're giving us another target in the video. Comfortable play, respecting boundaries, and tabletop RPGs.
I think it's a little.
Alright,
maybe in the future.
Actually,
I'm feeling some.
I want to talk about that as well because I have experience with
go.
shit like that. I play tabletop RPGs daily, so.
Yeah, I'm feeling some, just talking about this possible future video, I'm feeling some wishy-washy, I'm getting wishy-washy vibes from the video. Like, you shouldn't do this, but you can, we can't say you can't, but you you're a bad person, but if you do, you're okay.
All right,
you're a bad person, but it's okay.
All right, well, we'll add that to the list. But
Fucking
I kind of want to get into
centrist.
final thoughts and capping off. So I think that, yeah, as I was saying before, we completely got off track with that. I hate this kumbaya, wishy-washy kind of, well, we have to think about the world, and we have to think about how our games affect the world. It's like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You make the game. Yeah, you make the game for the act of wanting to make the game. Like, you want to make this game, right? Like, it's not. You shouldn't have to constantly worry about what the world thinks. You should just make the game you want to make and fuck the world, right?
And give it the message you want.
I mean, that is like the essence of creating stuff. Like, you make stuff
like,
because you want
I'm
to create.
studying.
Like,
I'm trying to get better as an artist
and
drawing like 50,000 fucking Loomis heads right now, because I want to be able to put the shit that's in my head onto, like, in a way that's actually describable, right? I don't do it because I'm thinking about, because
all those lewd ideas.
That's great. Like, for example, I don't like when I made my Rekafag deep. Like, when I'm actually making and actually published, my Rekafag deep lore videos, I wasn't thinking about the world. I wanted to create something and tell people about
and this
the
is
God
what I
that is
mean,
Rekafag.
right? Like, you don't. I hate this idea that these people have, where it's like you have to create things for the sake of the greater. Again, it's greater good thinking, isn't it? Right? It's the idea of you have to constantly think about how this is going to affect other people and how this is going to make other people feel and think and what they take away from it. And it's like, no, fuck off.
This is no different than the shit that parents groups were giving rappers back in the 80s for writing and singing about the things that they did. They were writing and singing about the things they saw, just growing up. And yeah, maybe that could potentially be construed as glorifying a certain lifestyle. But at the same time, like, the fact that they might even be glorifying a lifestyle is an interesting snapshot in history. Because, why are they doing it? Like, there's more to art than just the surface level thing. And it's no different from video games. It's no different from any medium. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be one of those people who thinks that games can't be some form of art. I mean, shit. I think that this video that we're watching is a form of art in some sort of way. I mean, they put creative effort into it. What they said was shit, but it's shitty art.
I mean, it's a well-made video, but the content is like shit.
I'll pass judgment on well-made. They haven't changed their style in years. It's just that
I don't know. I don't really have
any
better.
better.
I'm usually the guy that critiques the video quality. I don't really have much to complain about. Like, it's a typical extra credits video with the little cartoon characters. There's not really there's no obnoxious music. There's no there's nothing in there that I can actually home in on that I would criticize, other than the points themselves.
I mean, even the white background is
exactly.
slightly.
So, Ellie, what are your final thoughts on this?
It has some really big flaws in the video of basically a giant slippery slope combined with a vague idea of doing better and not paying attention to the greater threats to the world that costs thousands of lives each year without ever mentioning it, what this ground danger to the world is. The solutions are so superficial, they don't solve anything. Edgy things are only edgy if the thing behind it is dangerous in some way. Disgust is not a good indicator of how morally repulsive it is. Visceral disgust is not a good indication of actual moral disgust. And more of those small points made throughout the long video.
the moral disgust thing is something I've often heard that was actually spouted back during the gay rights movement, that if you accept gays now, then what's going to be next? Because, you know, your moral safeguard against, you know, sexual deviancy is going to be lowered, and that's going to normalize sexual deviancy.
It's the same argument with Satan's or Lucifer's scribbles.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's this type of, like, Puritanism bullshit, yeah. This video, this type of mindset, like, terrifies me on so many levels, I don't know where to start. And, like with Ali said and the rest of us says, like, this is a very slippery slope, and it's just... there are words... There are words... I do not know the words in the English dictionary to describe, like, how many levels of bad this is. So I'm just going to keep it simple. This is a clusterfuck of a video. It's poorly explained. Everything is superficial. It's boiled down to its most minute components. And it's just really bad. And this fucking whole, like, kumbaya shit is just making me sick to my stomach.
Make art because you want to make art, not for the...
Everybody should be Shadman,
okay,
but hopefully you draw better.
To be fair.
I think
kind of.
Yeah, I think his reputation is largely undeserved.